Warning: the following reading contains subject matter that some listeners might find disturbing or difficult to hear. Listener discretion is advised.
Are you sure you can handle things?
Relax, Twilight. You act like I haven't handled things in your absence before. Don't look at me like that. I promised I'd never do that again, didn't I? I've made lots of progress in my friendship studies since then.
Twilight did her best to keep her face neutral. Apparently that was a poor choice because Starlight's indignant expression did not abate. So she upped it to a smile and watched her reflect it tenfold. Twilight's reservation softened. Starlight really did only want to do well and please her. It was wrong to doubt her.
All right, Starlight, I trust you. But remember, Spike won't be here either, so if you need anything...
I'll go through your list of approved emergency contacts. And if they can't help, I'll move on to the emergency list. And if they can't help, I'll move on to the nuclear option and call Pinkie Pie.
Right.
Reluctantly, Twilight levitated her suitcase to her side.
Spike restocked the kitchen, so you shouldn't need to do any grocery shopping for the whole 2 weeks, except fresh fruit and vegetables. But I arrange deliveries from Golden Harvest and Applejack each Friday to—
Twilight.
Yes?
Isn't your train at 11 a.m.?
Yes. Why?
Starlight gestured at the clock.
It's 10:55.
Pony feathers! See you, Starlight!
Bye, Twilight. Enjoy the convention.
The corridor widened out in a sheen of teleportation magic. The fridge door was heavier than usual when Starlight opened it. She surveyed its contents, face sinking with each shelf.
What's with all of this health food? She always goes mother hen when she travels. Does she think I'm a foal who can't feed herself?
She nudged aside a bag of kale as though it might jump out and bite her. Behind was another bag of kale. Behind that was a cantaloupe. And behind that, another bag of kale. She gagged. She hated kale. Hopefully, she turned to the kitchen cupboards instead. 15 minutes later, her worst fears were confirmed.
Not a scrap of candy anywhere!
It wasn't that she was addicted to sugar, like some ponies, but the idea of spending 2 weeks without so much as a square of chocolate was repulsive. She had been looking forward to this break from her studies, but evenings without a mug of hot chocolate and a packet of cookies? Well, it was unthinkable. Twilight hated cookies around her books. Starlight never ate them when she was around, but when the cat was away, Starlight replaced everything so it looked like it had never been touched in the first place. It was time to go shopping.
Wow, this is a lot of candy.
Starlight grinned weakly, wishing every pony in Ponyville wasn't quite so interested in each other's lives. She could never quite get past the idea that they were judging her, or that their judgment found her wanting in some fundamental way. Wasn't it normal for ponies to come into a candy store and buy candy?
Well, I'm, running a book club, and it's my turn to bring the snacks.
Bonbon nodded sagely.
Usually ponies go for cheese and crackers for stuffy book clubs. I'm glad to see your pony a better taste.
Starlight sagged, gratitude pulling in her belly.
Yeah. Sweet treats are way better for talking about books.
But don't you worry about getting melted chocolate on the pages? I imagine Princess Twilight would get pretty neurotic about stuff like that.
Bonbon leaned across the counter.
When she was the librarian, I once brought back a cookbook with the tiniest cocoa powder stain on the cover, and she went ballistic. Chased me right out of the library tree and banned me from ever borrowing books again.
Yeah, I can picture her doing something like that.
It was comforting to know that her teacher wasn't perfect either.
But no, she doesn't mind.
Bonbon arched an eyebrow.
Well, yes, she does mind, but I have a paper restoration spell ready to use if that happens.
She had perfected it on cookie crumbles, but it was applicable to all stains, she was sure. Twilight would be none the wiser when she got home. Bonbon's smile was a little sharper than Starlight might have liked, yet she said nothing more as she shoveled jawbreakers into a brown paper bag and weighed them on the old-fashioned scales that dominated the counter.
That'll be 52 bits.
Starlight winced, but levitated the money from her purse without comment.
I sure hope the ponies at your book club appreciate how much you're spending on them.
Bonbon raised her voice over the jangle of the cash register.
What are you guys reading anyhow? Lyra was looking for a new hobby. A book club might just be the thing to get her out from under my hose once a week.
Mythic wishes, thaumaturgical constructs, and other physical realm-based magical theories.
Maybe not. She's more a daring do kind of girl. Well, have a nice day, and be sure to mention my shop when those clever ponies at your book club ask where you got such awesome candy.
Starlight exited gratefully. Her heavy saddlebags pulled at her spine as she began to walk home. Making small talk was hard. Did every pony find it as difficult as she did? Or was this, again, just something with which she struggled because she was such a...
Starlight!
Oh no.
Starlight Glimmer!
Oh no. A splash of color coalesced on the street in front of her, followed by a backwash of air so strong that if she had not been weighed down by her saddlebags, Starlight would have been knocked over.
Hi, Rainbow Dash.
She deadpanned. Rainbow hopped from hoof to hoof like the ground was made of hot metal.
You gotta come quick! It's an emergency!
What?
Twilight's not around and she's probably gonna need a unicorn and rarities in Manhattan at that stupid store of hers and—
Whoa. Slow down. What's the emergency? Who needs a unicorn?
Applejack!
Applejack needs a unicorn?
Uh-huh!
Why?
Rainbow looked at her as if she had just stated that 2 + 2 equaled 22.
Duh! Because she needs magic!
What? Rainbow, you're not making any sense. Slow down.
Ugh!
Rainbow clapped both forehooves over her face and dragged them down. Every atom of her being shouted that Starlight Glimmer was the dumbest pony in the universe right now. Starlight simultaneously bristled and cringed.
Applejack thinks that a new pack of timber wolves have been busting down the fences at the edge of her property.
She thinks they have, but she doesn't know they have.
She went to check it out. Alone! She's gonna totally get herself killed! And I'm awesome! But even I can't take out a whole pack of timber wolves! That takes magic!
Starlight's mouth hardened into a thin line.
Where did you say she went?
Northfield, right on the edge of the Everfree. Come on, dump those saddlebags and I can fly us there!
No.
Starlight grabbed Rainbow's hoof.
This is faster.
Starlight did not know Sweet Apple Acres as well as Rainbow Dash, so when her teleport dumped them in the field next to the one they actually wanted, Rainbow wasted no time in telling her, nor in flying off. Starlight was left to gallop after her, huffing and puffing.
This way!
You do realize this is all precautionary anyway, right? Applejack might not have even...
A howl from the tree line cut her off.
Damn it.
Come on!
Rainbow shot away.
Hurry up!
Starlight powered through the broken fence that marked the edge of Sweet Apple Acres. She was no expert, but the deep gouges in the soft ground looked like claw marks. And were those grooves on the uprooted fence posts the result of teeth? Breaking wood and yelling pulled her forward.
Take that, you varmints!
Applejack! We're coming! Hold on!
Dash, stay back! They're a lot bigger than I thought!
I brought Starlight!
You what? Ah!
AJ!
Rainbow disappeared in a volley of branches and crackling prismatic trail. Starlight followed the debris in the tunnel literally carved out by the force of Rainbow's speed. As she drew closer, hopping over rocks and through bracken, The noise of what could only be the fight came ever more apparent. Even so, when she burst through the undergrowth in time to see Rainbow Dash buck a barn-sized timber wolf in the eye to make it drop Applejack, she pulled up short.
Oh wow. That's big.
Applejack screamed as the wolf bit down.
Starlight, whoa!
Another timber wolf leapt at Rainbow from behind, stopped only by kinetically launched saddlebags shooting straight through the center of its face, sending its nose out the back of its skull. Its body collapsed to the ground, shattering on impact.
Starlight, hurry! It's gonna crush her!
Rainbow called desperately. Starlight was sweaty, tired, and frustrated. But more than that, she was angry. And an angry Starlight was something this pack of overgrown saplings had not anticipated when they picked this fight. The big brute biting down on Applejack's midsection yipped in surprise when its lower jaw was torn off and tossed away over the trees. Rainbow angled down to catch Applejack before she could hit the ground, but a cloud of turquoise magic caught the limp orange body and moved it to a safer spot. Starlight advanced on the confused wolf, each step punctuated by a halo of magic that lassoed one of its feet. The three smaller wolves in phalanx around it leapt forward, clearly thinking to take her while she was distracted, but each found itself similarly ensnared. They barked and whined piteously as her magic hauled them up, legs splayed like grotesque giant piñatas, with a noise akin to 3 gigantic trees being felled at once. Her magic ripped off their legs and heads, mangling each and flinging parts as far as she could in the depths of the Everfree. The lead wolf watched her, green eyes wide with fear. Starlight pointed.
Stay away from here. Next time, you won't be able to put yourselves back together.
It screeched as she ripped it up like it was made of paper and scattered its pieces far and wide. She kept the face for last, hoping some vestige of memory from this experience would remain as it inevitably reformed. With a flick of her head, she crunched its snout up into its eye socket and watched the green flicker out. Tired, she finally let go of her telekinesis and sank to her knees.
Starlight! Applejack's hurt real bad!
Grunting, she got back to her feet and hurried over to where Applejack lay. Rainbow hunched over her, one wing trailing from a purple bend that swelled in what had to be a break. She caught Starlight looking and scowled.
I tried to catch her and you knocked me into a tree, but I'm fine.
You're not fine.
Okay, no. It hurts like Tartarus, but she's worse than I am right now.
Starlight could not disagree. Applejack laid on her side, deep slashes along her spine from the Timberwolf's upper fangs. Her stomach, however, was far worse. Her entire undercarriage glistened red, shards of ribs poking through at irregular intervals. Something like pink rope slithered free when she groaned. Starlight realized that one of her hind legs had been nearly detached at the hip, held on only by a few threads of skin and fur.
They were fighting over her, like she was a freaking chew toy.
Starlight stared. She swallowed and tried again, but the words would not come.
What are you waiting for? Do something! Use your magic!
Starlight bit her lip. She knew some healing spells from her time running the village, but nothing on this level. She could set broken bones and sew up small wounds, but there was more here than a simple first aid spell could handle. She supposed she could simply turn up the power on the spell that she did know and hope for the best. If in doubt, throw more magic at the problem, right? That had always worked in the past. Except that it had not. Recent instances wherein she had tried to fix problems with magic squirmed in her mind. Almost none of them had worked, not turning sunbursts into a cult, not mind-controlling her friends, not helping Pinkie Pie look for Gummy's parents in the alligator swamp.
Starlight!
Rainbow gripped her cheeks and forced their faces together until they were nose to nose.
Focus! Don't freak out on me, okay? I need you to not freak out right now. Focus now, freak out later. Applejack may be dying. There has to be some spell in that big brain of yours to fix her long enough for us to get her to the hospital.
Of course. What had she been thinking? She didn't need to heal Applejack entirely. She just needed to do enough to stop her from dying before proper medical ponies could heal her. Why hadn't she thought of that? Starlight nodded, mouth squashed from the press of Rainbow's hooves.
Focus now. Freak out later.
Okay,
Rainbow released her.
now for buck's sake, do something!
Okay, I'm going to need you to step back and not touch her. No matter what, do not touch Applejack, okay?
Whatever! Get with the magic already!
She gritted her teeth and reached into her internal reserve, pushing raw magic into her horn. She muttered extracts of an old textbook under her breath, envisioning matrices and forming the raw power into the right shapes before releasing it. Healing was delicate work, and her magic was more of a hoof mace than a scalpel. Slowly, she eased the intestines on the ground back into Applejack's belly. There was dirt on it and a bit of dead leaf, but that would be okay. The medical ponies at the hospital would take care of that. Starlight drew the spell along the edges of the gut wound, pulling them together where they parted under the Timberwolf's teeth. Abruptly, Applejack started to convulse. Her eyes rolled up and her damaged back arched, forcing pained grunts up her throat as her body thrashed beyond her control. Spittle gathered at the corners of her mouth. Her tongue flopped out, one side smeared with dirt and blood. Starlight lost her hold on the wound.
Damn it!
She urged more magic into her horn, spreading the base spell matrix to cover Applejack's whole body. She tried to summon the anesthesia incantation she had learned long ago, but her thoughts jumbled as Applejack's convulsions worsened. The base matrix started to fracture as her concentration lapsed.
No!
What is it? What's happening?
She ignored Rainbow's question. Her internal power reserves were depleting. She needed to think of something. Fast.
Don't do this, Applejack! Don't you dare die!
Applejack's breathing hitched and stopped.
Oh no.
Starlight! What happened? Why isn't she breathing? Applejack! Applejack!
Starlight squeezed her eyes shut, summoning a bolt of raw power and channeling it through her horn directly into Applejack's chest. She felt it jam into the Earth Pony's heart, trying to pump start it like electric paddles before fizzling away into her limbs and thereafter the ground. Grass burned its roots where the raw magic touched, leaving a smoking ring around them. She sent another heart bolt, then a desperate one into her lungs, until Applejack's mouth gaped and she sucked in air.
Yes!
Except that was when the screaming started, and Starlight realized that the repeated bolts of magic running through Applejack's limbs had severed the final strips of flesh holding onto her hind leg. It laid smoking on the ground, a charred lump of what used to be attached. And thanks to Starlight's magic, all of Applejack's nerve endings were alive with the pain of it.
What the fuck did you do? What the fuck did you do, you absolute psycho?
Applejack flailed, trying instinctively to roll onto her hooves, but her remaining hind leg snagged into her exposed intestines. She floundered, not understanding what was happening, crushing it. When her hoof moved, the destroyed organ oozed black ichor and blood.
Applejack, please! You have to Applejack, stop! I can help you! You have to lay down so I can fix this!
Starlight ignited her horn and recast the healing matrix, swooping it over Applejack's belly and leg stump.
I can fix this. Then we can take you to the hospital. Please, just...
She widened the spell, peeling off a loop of magic to try the half-remembered anesthesia incantation.
You're making it worse! Please, just do as you're told!
Applejack's screams turned wet and guttural. Red foam sprayed into the air. Her skull smacked the ground, heedless to Starlight's words. This was all going wrong. There was no other choice. Turn up the power. If in doubt, throw more magic at the problem. It may not be the best plan, but it was all Starlight could think of. Reaching deep, she pulled up every scrap of power she had left and channeled it into her horn, which glowed a hot white, casting eerie shadows around them. She knew her eyes were shining with power. Her hooves were off the floor, buoyed by a nimbus of magical might.
What are you? Starlight? Starlight!
Hold still.
Her voice echoed like something from a nightmare. She readied, aimed, and fired the amped-up spell.
This will end her pain.
Are you crazy? You're gonna kill her! I knew we couldn't trust you!
Rainbow grabbed Applejack, trying to pull her out of the way.
Rainbow Dash!
Starlight's voice faded into static that filled her ears. She knew her mouth was moving, but heard no sound. She knew her eyes were open, but saw nothing. She knew her body was moving, but it did not feel the impact as she was thrown back. Apple Bloom knocked on the castle door. She wrinkled her nose. She had preferred it when Twilight Sparkle lived in the library tree, and knocking on her door hadn't felt like so much of an imposition. The library door had made a pleasant rat-a-tat-tat under her bald hoof. The castle door, on the other hand, sounded more like she was thumping on a pane of glass.
Are you sure they're here?
Oh, well, where else could they be? We already checked everywhere else.
Yeah, but Princess Twilight is out of town.
Starlight Glimmer's still here.
Do they even really like her?
Scootaloo rubbed the back of her neck.
I always got the feeling she was more of a charity case than a friend, you know?
Scootaloo? What an awful thing to say!
Well, it's true. She's like some pony who used to do bad things to other ponies or something, right? And Princess Twilight has been teaching her how to not be awful and become a better pony? That doesn't sound like friendship to me. That sounds like a charity.
She stopped talking as the great double doors eased open.
Hello?
Starlight looked down at them.
Oh, hello, girls. The, Cutie Mark Raiders, right?
Her smile was tight at the corners, as though she did not want to offend them.
Crusaders?
Apple Bloom stepped forward.
We're the Cutie Mark Crusaders.
Oh, yes, right.
Starlight's smile stretched even tighter. Come to think of it, Apple Bloom thought it was more of a rictus than a smile.
Can I help you with something? Are you selling cookies? Because I would really love some cookies right now.
No, we're looking for my sister.
Your sister?
And Rainbow Dash, although she's practically my sister too.
Why?
Scootaloo frowned.
Because she was meant to give me a wing workout session today and she never showed.
Anytime they disappear without a word like that, they're usually here on friendship business because of that their map thingy.
Oh, well, not quite.
Not quite?
They're not here for a friendship quest for the map.
But they are here?
Apple Bloom ticked her head to one side. Starlight Glimmer bit her lower lip and glanced over her shoulder. Scootaloo's eyes narrowed, but before she could say anything, the mayor spoke again.
They're here on friendship business. For me. My friendship. There was, a bit of a crisis, and I brought them here to help.
Well, can you ask them what time y'all will be done? Granny's mighty ornery about some busted fences she wants AJ to fix.
Oh, yeah, I can ask them that.
Starlight's smile slipped, and she darted back through the door, shutting it behind her. All 3 Crusaders blinked.
You're right, Scoots. Definitely a charity case.
Scootaloo folded her forelegs.
I can't believe Rainbow Dash threw me over for her.
I'm sure she has a good reason.
Like what? Blackmail?
Scootaloo's eyes widened.
I'll bet it was blackmail. Yeah, that's right. She'd never miss our session to just hang out with a weird pony like Starlight Glimmer unless she was being blackmailed into it.
Evidently placated by the interpretation of events, she allowed her forehooves to fall to the ground and tapped irritably.
Sheesh, what's taking her so long?
I don't like her. There's something weird about her.
No, duh. I hope someday Princess Twilight graduates her or knights her or whatever, and she leaves to go start a friendship quest someplace else in Equestria, and takes her stinky blackmail with her.
Scootaloo's tiny wings fluffed. They fell into a complicated silence, each caught up in her own thoughts, until the doors reopened and Starlight's tight smile appeared in the gap.
There.
Applebloom got to her hooves.
What in the hay is going on here? You're acting awful weird, Miss Glimmer.
No, I'm not.
If Starlight's smile got any wider, it was going to split her ears right to the tips.
Applejack and Rainbow Dash are just...
Tell us where they are!
Scootaloo's wingtips reached for the sky, back arched.
We're right here.
The door was shouldered open around Starlight by a pair of much more athletic bodies. Rainbow flicked her tail and smirked down at the Crusaders.
Celestia's butt, Scoots. Overreact much?
Scootaloo drew herself up.
You missed wing workouts!
Rainbow's eyes rounded.
Oh my gosh, I totally spaced on that. I'm sorry, Scoots. Applejack and I had this, thing with some Timberwolves.
Timberwolves?
Now don't go worrying. Things got a little hairy, but Starlight fixed me up. Plus, I doubt we'll be troubled by them varmints after what she did to them.
Starlight bowed her head.
I didn't do much. Any unicorn could have done the same.
You stuffed in one of their faces with your dang saddlebag, Sugar Cube.
Her smile fell.
Yeah, well, they were really full and really heavy, so they did more damage than they ordinarily would have.
Applejack slung a foreleg over her shoulders and pulled her in for a half hug that created the first real smile Applebloom had seen on Starlight Glimmer's face today.
You saved my life. Don't belittle that. Why, I reckon Twilight herself couldn't have done better.
Really?
Darn tootin'. I owe you so many favors after this. But for right now, I'd better get home. I'm guessing my family's been pretty worried about where I've been all day.
You didn't tell Granny where you were going. She's angry about the busted fences.
I'll bet. Maybe she won't be when I tell her they got busted by a runaway Timberwolf who was wearing our cows.
Yeah, that might do it.
Applejack unslung her foreleg and tipped her hat at Starlight.
Be seeing you, Starlight. I'll speak to Granny Smith about inviting y'all to a thank you dinner in honor of today. You like apple pie?
If it's got sugar in it, I'll love it. Does your granny bake, apple cookies by any chance?
I'll let her know to make some. Come on, Applebloom.
Yeah, come on, Scoots. Still got time for some wing workouts?
Do I ever?
Scootaloo dashed forward to her scooter at the bottom of the staircase.
Bye, Starlight!
Rainbow Dash waved vigorously. Applejack matched her vigor.
Later, Sugar Cube.
Bye, guys. I'd say it's been fun, but I'd be lying.
Starlight backed up and closed the doors with a decisive click.
Sweetie Belle?
Scootaloo buckled on her helmet.
Do you want me to drop you off at Carousel Boutique on the way?
Yeah, sure.
Casting one last uneasy look at the castle, Sweetie Belle hopped into the wagon, and they sped off. Slick with nervous sweat, Starlight slid down the door with a squeak. She froze, as if someone outside might have heard it too. She barely breathed for a few seconds, ears flicking to catch the monotonous sounds of little wings buzzing away. Only when her lungs burned did she release her breath and get to her hooves. That had been far too close. Wearily, she picked her way across the foyer and down one of the castle's multifarious corridors. It was the work of the moment to manipulate the coded lock enchantment Twilight had placed on her laboratory and slide away the door. As she stepped down the dark staircase, she lit her horn with what sparks she had left and reflected that her teacher should invest in electrical lighting instead of relying on magical glow lanterns. They were pretty, but their light was meager, and more than once she had lost her footing on these stairs. Hurrying up just now had bruised her shins, and she knew that they would hurt doubly tomorrow, unless the bathroom cabinet miraculously still had some anti-bruise tincture left. The moan was audible from halfway down the stairs. She sighed and grabbed one of the lanterns. It levitated ahead of her, catching the splayed tail hair first, then a curve of a haunch and a scrap of ragged belly before she moved to the far corner of the lab and fumbled with Twilight's chemistry set. Her ears flicked, her shoulders slumped. She shouldn't answer. Thankfully, the mixture hadn't burned. She sighed in relief and added the powdered griffin heart. The solution turned to a pleasing shade of green. The utterance ended with a dry, grating noise from a throat ill-suited for speech. It sounded painful, yet the noise came again.
Stop.
Starlight removed the flask from its clamp and turned around.
Don't hurt yourselves. Self?
She shook her head.
Just stop. Don't make this harder than it has to be.
Green and pink eyes stared up at her, arranged in no order amidst the marbled orange and blue fur. One of them still had a tear duct. It was leaking.
I told you not to touch her, Rainbow. Why couldn't you just do as you were told? I warned you, didn't I?
Starlight shook her head.
What am I saying? I always warn you. You never listen. Maybe this time I got it right, and the new dash is more biddable. You know what they say, 5th time is the charm, right?
She stepped towards the writhing mass of exposed sinew, bone, and fascia. Next to the spot where she had extracted flesh portions for regrowth was a bare lung inflating and deflating. She averted her steps to the portion more covered in fur.
New Applejack is certainly an improvement this time. I like how she seems friendlier to me than you were. Look, I'm sorry, okay? I tried. I really did. I even tried not to use too much magic this time. But I can't afford to fail again.
Her ears drooped.
I can't let Twilight down. I've built a new life here. I have too much to lose if I make mistakes.
She spritzed the green liquid around the abomination and stepped back.
But for what it's worth, I really am sorry. I've made improvements to keep them from taking risks like that again. More fear this time. less bullheadedness, and less distrust of me, so they'll do as I say without thinking I'm...
She bit her lip at the memory.
Psycho. I'll do my best to protect them.
She ignited her horn with the flame spell.
I promise.
The mass of flesh screamed as it was set ablaze. The magical accelerant raced across its surface, charring fur and scorching skin as it split and curled into blackened spirals. Subcutaneous fat bubbling and spat. The exposed lung quivered as juices trapped inside of it boiled until it exploded. Bones cracked and splintered, marrow hardening and fissuring into dust. After less than 2 minutes, all that remained was a shrinking ball of greasy ash that popped and vanished. Starlight cleaned herself up meticulously, being especially careful with the corked bottle of Mirapool water. Twilight would have never guessed that her equipment had been used. Starlight never used any of the lab's raw materials, especially given that they weren't rare or exotic enough for her needs when she was desperate enough to need the lab like this. As she replaced the lock, her stomach rumbled. She remembered the lost saddlebags and grumbled. She resolved to go to Sugar Cube Corner to see whether the extra generosity she had implanted in Pinky 4 would get her a free cookie.
I can totally handle things here. Totally.